Hello friends, I'm Jill Williams. Welcome to the Think Like a Painter podcast, where we'll have weekly discussions about living life as a painter, how we're different, and the mindsets we need to become better artists. I'm a professional artist, watercolorist, and instructor who's passionate about the creative process and helping others to achieve their artistic goals. I've devoted most of my life to art as a painter. I've even worked as a muralist, stained glass artist, illustrator, graphic designer, and even professional picture framer on my journey to discovering my creative voice. I have over 2 decades of experience in the creative trenches to share with you in hopes that you will be informed, inspired, motivated, and most importantly, that you'll learn more about yourself as an artist and how to expand your own creative potential. If you're looking for your tribe of painters, regardless of skill level, I encourage you to join me each week to learn how you can think like a painter. Today we're talking about imposter syndrome and what are we supposed to do about it. And I know that this idea of imposter syndrome, gosh, this term gets talked about so much, it gets thrown around so much. We've been hearing it, we always hear about it. But even if you're tired of hearing about it, the reality is we're still kind of dealing with it all the time. And so what I want to do today is kind of get into some discussion about, why are we even dealing with this? Why are artists dealing with this? And then, let's kind of define it. Let's define imposter syndrome so that we've got kind of just sort of a definition, a working definition that we can kind of work from, and being able to describe something helps us know how to kind of deal with it a little bit. We're also going to talk about, this idea of maybe, or ask the question, is imposter syndrome different for different types of creatives, or just is it the same for all creatives? I think that's kind of an interesting question. We're going to look at that, and then the last couple of things, what are our options? What are we supposed to do with this? And then will this ever go away? Okay, so I think these are some good things that we can talk about. So as we're going through the conversation, pop in with questions or comments, whatever you've got going. So let's kind of go back up to the top of the list there of, why are we even dealing with this as artists? And I think just, based on my experience as an artist myself, and then watching others, helping other artists to grow in their own craft and their own, creative journey, one of the things that I keep seeing over and over is, as artists, we're continually, doing things that we're not sure of. We're exploring, we're trying new things. We're just doing things that puts us in a position where we've never actually been there before. So we're constantly dealing with this idea of uncertainty. Okay. And, if you really think about it, here's a color I've not tried. Here's a technique I've not tried. Here's a genre I've not tried. Here's an idea that I have in my head that I don't even really know how to get it onto the paper. I'm just going to kind of just start trying to just figure it out. Okay. We deal with uncertainty all the time. All the time. And so when you think about it in those terms, it's really kind of, it's kind of, obvious that we would, from time to time, experience feelings of uncertainty, the repercussions of uncertainty, which are, just a little bit of maybe disillusionment, discomfort, frustration. It just kind of goes on and on, all these, maybe feelings of deflation, because we're constantly dealing with uncertainty. And it's also sort of, this idea of, we do have these expectations. We want our painting to turn out nice. We want to sit down and do a great painting. We want to go in a different direction. So there's this constant battle between all of our expectations and all of this uncertainty. And so really, if you think about it, it's kind of, there's almost no way out of maybe getting hit with some of these feelings from time to time, and I think that if we are willing to just kind of be honest with ourselves and, kind of talk to yourself a little bit sometimes, about these things, and just say, don't be surprised when these kind of feelings are happening, because, you're flirting with uncertainty all the time. So the feedback is often going to be, emotionally you're feeling uncertain because of, all the areas of exploration or the territories that you're, mentally and artistically going off in. It's going to kind of hit us that way sometimes. And so, when we're feeling all those negative feelings, I think it's important for us to kind of define this a little bit. And, we know kind of the classical definition of imposter syndrome is just, feeling inadequate about your skills, your abilities, or whatever it may be, feeling less than, we know that is sort of the classical definition of it. But I think it's really important for us to not only be able to define it, but we kind of need to reframe it, and in terms of giving ourselves a little bit of permission to experience these feelings from time to time, or however often they may be showing up, knowing that it's normal. We're setting ourselves up for some of these feelings because we're doing things that we've never done before. We're exploring, we're going off into territory where we've never been, and so we're going to experience some of that, some of that discomfort. Let me know. Oh, hey, got a lot of folks saying hello. Come on in. Different places all over the place. This is fantastic. Awesome. Come on in. So if I know that classically for myself, one of the things that I will deal with in terms of imposter syndrome, and you be thinking about this yourself as we're talking about it. I'd love for you to share some of the things that you're experiencing too, when or if it happens. So one of the things that I will classically deal with is, I will have this great idea. I will, just be thinking, oh, I'm inspired by some specific thing, and I'll go off in a direction, and it just seems like I can't pull it off. I can't get the thing that I'm imagining, or the look, or the feel, or the intention, the message, whatever it is that I'm really after. I'll fall short. And so one of the things that I will immediately do to myself, I'll kind of, beat myself up a little bit and just think, well, if I was better, I would have been able to do this because, that's just it. If I was just better, then I would have been able to do this. And honestly, that's not really fair, especially, if you've been, if you do this too, if you've been painting and you've been spending time honing your craft, and then you have an idea and you go off in a direction and it doesn't quite, you're not quite able to just grab it right off the bat, right out of the gate, then we think that something's wrong. And really, we're not giving ourselves room to, go through a process. We're just expecting, again, it's about this expectation of, well, I know what I wanted it to look like in my mind. It should have just happened. And most of the time, it can happen, but most of the time it's going to be more process oriented. We're probably going to strike off in a direction, and even if it doesn't, fulfill the expectation that we might have had, there's still going to be some good things about it, but we might need to try a second time, a third time, fourth, or, 10 times. I don't know, however many times we need to try it. I think that's one of those things that artists and creatives do, is they get an idea and they think they should just be able to just immediately execute it. And, lightning can strike, and you just captured in a bottle, and it works occasionally, but most of the time we're going to have to kind of just work at it for a little bit. And so when those feelings come up in those instances where maybe you're trying and you're working on it, give yourself permission to go through the process and know that it's normal. And yeah, I guess we might still be disappointed that we didn't, catch lightning in a bottle the first time out, but know that it's normal. It's not because something's wrong. It's not because, it's not because I've not been, honing my craft. It's not because I've not been working on it. I didn't catch it that first time out. I just need to keep working through the process. Okay. Let me know if that let me know if that kind of resonates with you a little bit. Sometimes we just really need to give ourselves permission to endure. I'll call it endure the process, because sometimes it does feel like this thing that we're having to endure. It would be fantastic if we could just pour out everything perfectly every time we sat down. I mean, how great could that be? Would that be? But it's not very realistic, So that, that sort of that battle that's always going on between expectation and, uncertainty, let it be there, because it just is. That's what it's going to feel like. But reframe it as normal. This is going through the process. It's like exercise, or learning to play a new piece of music that you're not familiar with, or learning, maybe you've started a new job and you've got to learn how to do a whole new process. We all have to go through these things where we've got to learn how to put it together in a certain way, and it just takes time. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just takes time. And so let's give ourselves permission to have those growing pains, so to speak. Let's give ourselves permission to know that, if we're feeling frustrated, reframe it as, I'm embracing the process. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. Let's see. Tanya says, I'm not very patient with myself or forgiving. Absolutely. And listen, Tanya, this is for everybody. And, I deal with this too. Be patient with yourself. And I want you to think about this. I've shared this story before, but I can remember a real defining crossroads in my own art journey where I made the decision to be kind to myself, to be loving and patient with myself, because there's been a time where I would, this particular instance, this was the kind of the breaking point for me. I was at the easel. I was working on an acrylic painting at the time, and it was going well. There was this one passage in the painting that I was just feeling really good about. It was working. And then I thought, those of you that paint with me often, that I will take risk, and I'll even announce it. Okay, I'm going to take a risk right now. And so I did that in the course of this particular painting. This has been years ago. And I thought, okay, I'm going to risk this one thing. And so I laid that brush mark down and I kind of ruined it. I pushed it too far. I just messed up the whole thing. And I just said really mean and hateful things to myself, even to my painting, this stupid painting, and why am I so stupid? And, I don't even remember the words I said, but I was mean and hateful to myself. And that was something that I was in a pattern of doing, for many years, because my expectation was so high and my insecurity was so high, and it just sort of culminated in me being mean to myself. And as soon as for whatever reason, I really just believe it was just sort of this divine sort of download experience that I had. But in that moment of being really hateful to myself, I just suddenly felt this knowing, and this phrase, these words came into my mind and into my heart. It was just like, don't say hateful things. Don't be mean to the work that is trying to come out of you. It is trying so hard. So be kind. And I had to take a minute, and I thought, this is so true. The work that's inside us, if we're already so incredibly blessed and endowed with this ability, with this drive, with this compulsion to be creative and to express things in the first place. I mean, what a great, amazing, miraculous type of gift to have. If we already have this, let's not be mean to it and then yell at it when it doesn't do exactly what we think it should do. Be kind to that. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to the work that you're doing, the thing that's in you that is trying to come out. It is so, it's pure. It's on its way out. It's trying so hard to become. And the last thing we need to do is to be mean to it. Okay, let's be kind, let's coax, let's encourage, let's make space, let's make margin, let's make sure that that's trying to come out feels, feels like it's got a way out without any of these negative things, because the process is already, strenuous and difficult enough. So let's be kind. Let's be kind. So I hope that helps you, Tanya. It really makes a difference, And so when we're feeling those feelings of I'm really not good at this. Am I kidding myself? Why do I even bother? Just on and on. These are all examples of those kind of mean and hateful things, and that we say to ourselves, and we might not think about it that way, but our soul feels that, our hearts hear that, and the gift within us hears that, I feel like. And let's just make peace with that. Let's give ourselves permission to go through this process and not feel that something's wrong. It's like, ask any mother, it's hard work to get a baby here, okay? But it doesn't mean that something's going wrong. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of pain, to get here. And the same can be true for our work. So let's make peace with that and know that sometimes it's just not going to be easy, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Okay, we're on the right track. We're on the right track. So let's look. Let's see. Shelley says that this does resonate with her, and she says, I have new landscapes. Oops, my feed just jumped and I lost your comment. Oh my goodness, hold on. Let me find it. Hold on, Shelley. I have a new landscape to gain perspective on. It has now reminded me of your first experience with Big Sky. Yeah, absolutely. That's, you're just kind of talking about scale and just getting into something new. And when it's new, it feels different. It feels challenging. It feels hard. And we're, it's kind of like climbing up to the high dive for that first time when you were a kid, and you're like, I don't know about this, but if we can just, if we manage to jump off, and even if you never do it again, you feel good that you pushed through, you got through it. But every time we do something new, it's always going to be a challenge. It doesn't mean that something's going wrong. You're just in the process, okay? You're coping with the challenge. And the best way to do that is to be kind to yourself, move forward, know that you're going to get there, but it might not happen the first try, okay? Let's see if I've got any more questions. Oh, this is so good, Christy. Christy says, frequently I know what I want to do with a painting, and it may be somewhat like another artist style, but deep down, it's really me. Although it would totally be my way and what I have been wishing for, it may look like I'm trying to copy another artist style. I can't seem to, my feed keeps jumping. I can't seem to get on paper because of that hesitancy. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So let me kind of paraphrase what Christy's talking about. This is so good. We deal with this all the time as painters, as artists. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, maybe last week, but, when we're working, we're inspired by others. We will spend a lot of time emulating others, and these things are good. They're okay. They're there to help us grow and expand and figure out exactly where we're going, what our direction is. But then sometimes, you can see, I think what Christy is saying, that she feels a way of, kind of approaching this subject, this, whatever it may be, but there'll be a hesitancy because she doesn't just want to copy. She wants to kind of do her own twist on this, but then she'll get caught up in, probably, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll start to feel a little bit of perfectionism, a little bit of hesitancy, because what if I get it wrong? What if it doesn't work out? What if it looks like garbage? What if I waste a sheet of paper? All these what if kind of things. And honestly, the only way to get around that hesitancy, because you've got the expectation, you got the uncertainty. They are just like these weird sister companion things that are in our artistic process pretty much at all times. And the only way to confront that is to just go through, just knock the door down and go in the room. And so just begin. And if it turns out like garbage, then now you know what maybe not to do. But it's in these steps of uncertainty when we're moving into that, we're likely to mess up. We're likely to not achieve the thing that we're going to do. Know that going in. But the beautiful thing is that we will learn 2 or 3 different things that will now give us a truer sense of direction, because we sort of knocked the door down. Okay, so each little step that we try, even though we're uncertain, it leads to more clarity. Okay, so you'll sit down, you'll start working on the painting, and right off you'll go, I knew I should have not tried these values. I was wrong on that. I'm just using that as an example. Okay, now your clarity is there for the values. Now you've got a better sense of direction on the values. And then once you start getting one little piece of information in clarity, it opens the door for more clarity and more clarity and more clarity. And the only way to get all of those little pieces of clarity is to kind of knock the door down and just start. Just do it. Just begin, just get in there and do it. So, don't try to, I think this is what we do a lot of times. We try to figure out, we try to talk our way through it, and let's get decided on where things need to be, and then I'll start. And, that works out fine when you're trying to maybe, shop for a car, or something like that. Yes, ask all the questions, know everything you want to know before you make a decision. But sometimes when we're in the creative process and we've got something inside, because don't you know, the things that are inside, they start welling up and kind of rising to the surface without words. We just kind of have a knowing. It's like, there's something new trying to become, and I don't know what it is. And honestly, sitting around and talking about it and thinking about it are not really the best ways. You can do those things, but really the best way is to get out a sheet of paper, get a pencil, just start making marks, and then eventually just something starts to come loose and you start figuring it out. Okay, those little pinpoint moments of clarity begin to form, and you start to see it more clearly. But if we kind of sit back and don't take action, then we wind up in that place of that imposter syndrome, of that, well, who am I kidding? Who am I? What am I? Am I even a painter? All of that kind of stuff. I posted it in the group. Van Gogh is, attributed as saying, whenever this is not the exact quote, but I posted it on the page. But if ever I feel a voice in my head that says, that I can't paint, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I can't paint, then by all means paint, and then you will have silenced that voice. And that's describing that process of just take action, just do the thing, just start moving in that direction, and that's when clarity comes every time. It will totally come. Let's see. Let me look and see if I've got some more questions. Let's see. Joanne is saying, this is good too. Joanne says, I have trouble accepting that people might think I have a good painting. Joanne, I know what you're talking about, and here's what let me talk about it for a minute, and then you tell me if we're sort of on the same page. All right, so I can remember a time in my life, people complimenting me on my work. And, and I've watched other people get complimented on their work, and they're just like, oh my gosh, thank you. And, and all this. And then you have those others, okay, that are a little bit arrogant, and they're like, yeah, I know, it's probably the best painting I ever did. If you've ever watched Napoleon Dynamite, you've maybe seen that, where maybe they're a little overconfident. But then, one of the things that I would always experience when people would compliment my work is, it would actually kind of cause some negativity to sort of stir up in me. I couldn't really put my finger on it at the time, but I realized what it was, is that I knew that it was not my best work. I knew that I still had so much more that I wanted to accomplish in my work. And here somebody is complimenting it, and I'm thinking that this doesn't deserve a compliment. And so for a long time, I would be kind of maybe self-deprecating. I would deny that it had any merit. I would, it was all these kind of negative things, sort of pushing that compliment back. And then one of the things that I finally realized was that if someone was complimenting me, it was okay for me to receive the compliment because they were offering something positive to me, and it was okay for me to accept that and appreciate their thoughts, their opinion, their feelings on it, because they were genuinely trying to, communicate, something positive to me and encouragement to me, whatever the case. And it was okay for me to accept that, but I could still know that within me, within myself, I still had a lot more work to do. I still had a lot more to achieve for myself. I still had a lot more to prove to myself. And so, I wouldn't throw all that back on the other person, but I would learn to say when I would get compliments, thank you, I appreciate that. And then, maybe I might, some comment like, it's an ongoing process. We continue to learn. We continue to get better. The more we do it, or whatever the case may be, because I did learn that I would kind of hurt that other person's feelings. If they would compliment my painting, and I would say, yeah, well, I mean, I guess. It's probably, I don't really like it. And then I've just created this weird, awkward thing between a person that's trying to be nice to me and myself, and I learned to quit doing that. I learned to just receive that positivity, but know within myself that I still had work to do, and I could be encouraged that somebody did see merit, but I would know that I had more. So accept all that goodwill, Joanne, accept all of that. Accept all of it. But you can know within yourself that you still have work to do. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just looking through the questions. Ellen, let's see. Oh, this is good. Ellen is saying, she's giving an example. For those of you that are out there, especially if you're watercolor painters, you're going to know Anne Blockley. So Anne Blockley has this really beautiful impressionistic style. So Ellen's talking about, that her style really inspires her, but she wants her own twist on this magic in nature. Okay, this is a challenge for me to authentically solidify my own voice. And Ellen, this is so good. This is kind of akin to what we were talking about before with Christy's comment, and that is, you see that thing that inspires you, and you want a taste of that. You see where somebody else has been able to like find their voice. It's like, oh my gosh, she speaks that language. Look at how she's speaking that language visually. I haven't discovered the way that I want to really say what I want to say. But here's what I want you to consider. It's still about process. And so dive into it, follow some of the techniques, follow the demos or tutorials of people that inspire you. Just dig into it. And what you will find, if you do it enough, because here's the thing, it's the repetition has got to happen. If you do it enough, your own tendencies, your own mark making, your own whatever, your own thoughts, everything will start to, will begin to emerge. But that's not going to happen though if you're not doing a lot of painting. Okay, because it just won't happen after one or two paintings. You've got to do this for like weeks. You got to spend some time. Spend some time doing it. I think we might have talked about this in last week's that, yeah, I know. Yeah, I was mentioning that, when I was in Ian Stewart's workshop, I will tend to sort of emulate and copy his style a little bit, because I'm right there in the class, and I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to follow him, and so I'm doing as he does, and it will begin to look like, that I'm just trying to make an Ian Stewart painting. And it kind of looks like that in the beginning, but, over the 3 days that we were in the workshop, I would begin to get this feel for my own tendency, my own, my own mark making to start coming out. And then by the time the workshop was over, it was this weird, wonky fusion of my work and something that kind of looked like Ian Stewart's work, and it was a very incomplete mishmash of whatever, but as I have spent more time, gleaning certain specific techniques and strategies, from his process and sort of integrating it into my own, those sort of get hidden and tucked away now in my own sort of stylistic, choices or whatever. But the more you do it, the more your tendencies start to come out, okay? And there'll be things that drop away. There'll be things that the way that you do it, and it's just again, it's process. It just takes some time. So just jump in there, Ellen, and just keep doing it. Just keep doing it, because you will find your own technique is always going to come out. If you think about it this way, if anybody has ever, you've gone through this process, probably when you were young and still lived at home with your family, you learned housekeeping skills. Okay, but then, meal preparation skills, or handyman skills, or mechanic skills, or whatever you may have been blessed to have been taught when you were growing up. Chances are that by the time you kind of grew up and got out on your own, and you're sort of, established in your own home, you do things a little differently. Okay, and it's because you've got your own sort of way, just as an example, I know my mother folded towels, like bath towels. She folded them a very specific way, and I don't do that anymore. I can remember thinking, when I live on my own, I'm going to fold a towel the way I want to fold a towel. Okay. And it's funny, I was over at her house just recently. She's still folding towels the way that she folds them. And it's okay. It's totally okay. But I'm just saying that, when you do something long enough, you start to figure out, hey, I want to do it this way. Okay. Same thing happens in our painting processes. So, what I want you to get here is that it's all about the repetition. You got to just keep doing it. You just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. It's not going to come out the first time. It's not going to come out the second time. Okay. Just keep doing. So let's see. Oh yeah, this is good. Shelley was just saying, oops, did I lose it? One of Shelley's favorite mark making techniques is scumbling, and we do that a lot in the membership. And so now I've seen it, Shelley. I've seen you work it into places, because you've kind of adopted that technique, and you kind of make it your own, and you put it where you want it to go, and all that kind of stuff. And that's a huge part of it. That's a huge part of it. Just the repetition, jumping in there and doing it. All right, so let's talk about this. One of the questions that I have heard before, and I also witnessed this just as an instructor. I think that imposter syndrome is different for different creatives, or let me rephrase that. It's different for whatever level, experience level you're at as a creative. Imposter syndrome looks a little bit differently. Okay, it looks a little bit differently every time. And so if you're brand new, imposter syndrome can hit you in ways where you're thinking, I'm never going to learn how to do any of this. I look at these other paintings, and how could I ever do a painting like this? And so you're brand new, you're just beginning, and you're trying to figure out so much. I mean, it's really overwhelming. And so imposter syndrome can hit you really hard in the beginning, just kind of making you feel defeated all the time, and just like, how can I ever accomplish anything? Okay. And so you wonder why you're even trying. Ignore that voice, because as for those of us who've been painting for months or years or even decades, we've all felt that too in the beginning, but we just, somehow or another, we knew that we wanted to be painters, and we just kind of kept trying again, trying again, trying again. And each time you do, more clarity comes, more skill comes, more awareness, more knowledge, all the different things. It begins to build. And again, the common denominator is repetition, showing up, doing the work. Okay. So, when you're a beginner, those feelings of deflation are really strong. If you've been painting for a while, one of the ways that you get hit with imposter syndrome is, you've improved, you're kind of painting at this new level, and you feel really good about it. You've made some achievements. Your painting goals are kind of opening up. You're feeling good about your work, and then you kind of start realizing that you're ready to kick it up a notch, and then, oh my goodness, you kind of start hitting a little bit of resistance, because to get better, means that you've got to expand a little bit more. And that's one of the first things that happen. Anytime you're trying to expand, you're going to hit some resistance. It's just, it happens everywhere in all facets of life. Whether it's just our routines or our schedules, or you want to, take on new responsibilities at your job, or, you want to change the way you do things at home, or whatever the case may be. Anytime you want to change something up, try to push something to a new level, there's going to be resistance. Okay. And again, really the only solution is keep showing up, keep doing the work. Okay. And so know that every time you feel that resistance, it's normal. You're trying to engage into a new level of process. And again, you've got expectation, you've got the uncertainty, they're at odds again. They're just there. Just kind of maybe start to understand that they're just going to be there like the sun and the moon. Okay. And they're not there to challenge you or to defeat you. They're there because they're these visceral, emotional, things that we're aware of that indicate that we're in process. We're doing the work. Okay. So kind of reframe that. These are not our enemies, so to speak. They're there. They're letting us know that things are working. Okay. Let's talk about, maybe you've been painting for, talking about imposter syndrome being different for creatives depending on their level of experience. Maybe you're getting to the point where your work is, you're feeling a lot more confident in your work, and you're kind of on that cusp. You're ready to start like exhibiting your work. You want to maybe sell your work or exhibit your work, and so maybe you do you show up to an art show and you don't sell anything, or you apply for an art exhibit and you don't get accepted. And oh my gosh, the first thing that starts to hit is, expectation, uncertainty, and you're immediately thinking, well, I must not be good enough. I've done all this work and I'm still not good enough. And those feelings are absolutely real. But that description of what's happening, like I'm not good enough or else I would have been accepted, I'm not good enough or my painting would have sold, okay, those are not true. Okay, if you know that the work is good, okay, your work does have to be good, okay, but if you have a sober assessment of your work and it is good, but it didn't sell and it didn't get accepted to the show, don't believe those negative thoughts that it's not good enough. There are a myriad of reasons why a piece of work doesn't sell or doesn't get accepted to a show, and they have nothing to do with your skill level. It has everything to do with this complex network of decision-making factors that are happening between multiple people, a variety of scenarios, things that are just utterly outside of your control. Okay, so try to just dismiss that and know that, again, show up, do the work, apply for another show. Try to sell your work at a different place, or try to sell it at the same place, again, but at a different time. Okay, just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. Okay, because expectation and uncertainty is the sun and the moon. They're always going to be there. Okay, they're just sort of those those companions that kind of move through our art journey with us. But when we see those, when we experience those things, instead of maybe running from that, just say, okay, I'm in the process. It's happening. It's working. I'm moving in a direction. Okay, keep showing up. Keep doing the work. So what are my options? And we've kind of been touching on it a little bit. Every time we start to feel these negative things, we need to make sure that we're first acknowledging and being honest with ourselves. And am I showing up? Am I doing the work? Because if you go painting, if you go without painting for weeks or months at a time, and then you're frustrated with yourself because things are not turning out the way that you wanted, start first by just acknowledging, I've not shown up and done the work. How could it be good or better if I've really not shown up? Be honest with yourself. Okay. But if you've been showing up and doing the work, and you're still kind of struggling with these negative thoughts and feelings about things, just know that this is normal. You're in the process. You're doing the thing, and then figure out the ways where, when, and how that you need to show up. Okay. If you're working on trying to, practice emulating somebody else's style because you're resonating with it, but you want to find your own way to do it, then maybe for the next couple of weeks, you just need to focus on emulating that work. Don't get busy and distracted doing a bunch of other things. Just narrow in, focus in on that. Just kind of do that until you either start getting some clarity, or there's sometimes it might die on the vine. Okay, I've done that before too, and it was just a matter of, I thought I wanted to do that, but as I started really digging into it and trying to emulate that, I realized that I didn't even really enjoy that process. And I understand that type of process was involved to maybe get this look, but I didn't really enjoy that process. And so I can know immediately that's something I can drop. I don't have to, I don't want to have to work on work that is this, that feels like a chore, whatever the case may be. So narrow in, let it inform you. Okay. And that's really where you start getting clarity and answers, is to really narrow in. Don't start, we'll kind of run away from, something that we probably need to be working on. We'll be, focused on, let me just give you an example. Let's say you're trying to learn how to do some of Anne Blockley's techniques or whatever, and there's a couple of things you want to focus on in her sort of genre, her style, let's say. And so you're digging out your supplies to kind of match what her supplies are. And then you find some pastels. And you're like, oh, maybe I should just do some pastel drawing today. And then you start doing pastel drawing. And then while you're doing that, you found some modeling clay. And then you want to play with that. And, you get distracted and you start going off in these other directions. And you're thinking, gosh, I'm being so productive and so creative. But really, you're running away from the thing that you probably should be doing, which was to work on a style that's intriguing to you, so that you can play with it, push and pull, experiment with that, and learn and find out if you've got something that's going to come out that satisfies your need to to reach and to reach some semblance of that style, whatever it is that's triggering you and speaking to you in that style, have you done the work to try to figure out what that is? Okay. And the only way to do that is to narrow in. Don't let yourself get distracted. Okay. Let's see. Shelley says, yes, our art club has expanded my focus. And yeah, sometimes, and there's a place for expanding your focus. That's one of those times, like if you're having a dry spell and you're just like, I just don't feel anything. Am I even an artist? Maybe that is the time to get out 2 or 3 different mediums and just play. Always taking action is what will begin to confirm and start providing you with clarity in your direction every time. And that's not just true in art, that's true in life as well. Get up and move. Okay, I had a little pause there for a second. Let me back up just in case that some of that got missed. You getting a signal issue here. One of the things that I like to tell people is that, only a moving ship can be steered. Okay. If it's sitting in dry dock, or if it's just, sitting with, still with its anchor lowered, it's not going anywhere. And so I think that is, I know it's true in my own life. If I take action, clarity comes. Okay. And that totally happens in our art. And so I think the last way, let's see. Evelyn is just saying, yes, the things that are being said are helpful and great reminders to just keep on going, no matter what's going on, paper disasters or whatever. Evelyn's saying that she will tend to kind of just stop working on things and then decide that maybe this isn't what I should be trying to paint. And that can happen too, but you don't find out until you actually take action. Okay. It really makes a big difference. And I think the last thing I want to, say is, we talk about imposter syndrome and, and all these negative things that come our way. We need to, we need to acknowledge that it's probably not going to go away. Okay, we're still going to be confronted with these things. The expectation and the uncertainty are always going to be kind of happening in conjunction with one another. But if we're willing to reframe and know that, when we have these experiences, when we face the challenges, when we have the negative feelings, when we get the deflation or the disillusionment or whatever it is, don't grab a hold of that like a rock and let it just sink you down to the bottom of the lake, right? Realize, oh, okay, I'm hitting some of that resistance. Okay, I'm in my growth process. I know that I'm in my growth process because expectation and uncertainty are just alive and well, and they're both talking to me from 2 different directions. And just know that, the solution is to just get to work, start moving, show up, do the work, pick a thing, do it, stay moving, because clarity comes from that movement. And just know that you're in the process and it's normal. Okay, you're not less than. And anytime we're hearing those negative things, make sure that you're giving yourself some good, positive self-talk. Okay, and so, if you're saying or thinking mean things about yourself, about your work, about your process, about how you can't figure it out or whatever, turn the script, change the script on all of that, and make sure that you are, speaking well, that you're speaking life into those areas. Okay. And know that as a creative, we've got a very special way that we live our lives, and the way that we choose to handle this creative process and the challenges that come along with it. When we handle that well, that's when we grow. That's when we become really good at what we do. That's when we become better than we thought we would. And as we move forward in it, and clarity opens, we start finding out what our voice is, what our direction is. It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference in the world. So I hope this has been encouraging to you. Let me make sure that I don't have any more questions. And then, of course, if you're not watching this live and you're seeing this in the replay and you want to get in on some of the discussion, definitely come into the group right here, join the group so that you can interact and have conversations with me and all the other folks that are here, because I think it's really, really important. Okay. So I'm hopeful that today you leave with just a different mindset about imposter syndrome, and that it doesn't feel like this heavy, sort of scary thing that's to be avoided. It's just, it can kind of feel like this bully that comes into our lives, but really, it's just, we just sort of have to know how to handle it. Okay. And that it makes all the difference when we can look at it that way, reframe, take everything at the positive, and just get busy showing up for ourselves and doing the work. Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys, for joining me. I appreciate you being here, and I will look forward to talking to you next week right here in the group. And until then, I hope you have some great painting episodes and great painting time, and just stay moving. Keep showing up, keep doing the work, and it will come together. I promise you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.